If you're into precision rifles, you've probably used tuners and or brakes, but what if you could combine them into one muzzle accessory? In this video, we are going to take a look at the EC Tuner Brake. Gavin Gu here from UltimateReloader.com. I'm here again with Travis Fox. Travis, thank you for joining me again.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Gavin.
Yeah, in our last video that we collaborated on, we took an in-depth look at Hornady's 6mm 110 grain A-tip bullets. But back in the background, we were taking a look at this new device called the EC Tuner Brake from Eric Cortina. Now, tuners are really interesting things. You've had experience, Travis, with tuners. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've done here?
I've tried everything from the Eric Cortina tuner brake, down to O-rings from the hardware store on 22 rimfire rifles and various places on the barrel. And what I came up with, they work. I'm a believer.
Yeah, and when you think of a rifle, it is a dynamic system. And when we think about load development, there's a couple things we're looking at, right? We're looking at, can we get to a velocity that is appropriate? Have we achieved a velocity goal? Can we get consistent velocity? But then, of course, we're also looking at group sizes, and load development, as many of you know, can have a tremendous effect on the size of your groups, and that has to do with the different barrel harmonics that you're going to impart with different loads, right? So the barrel to action is its own system, the stock is its own system, the shooter is its own system, but together it's all one large dynamic system. And what I've learned in the last 2 weeks is just how much those different variables can affect group size. For instance, I was shooting the Bergara 6.5 PRC in its stock, got one result. I put it into a chassis, I got a different result. So the old school way to think about this would be, let's go through our complete set of load development steps again from scratch. You know, you've seen this, you take off a muzzle accessory, it can be a heading and a reset button.
It could change everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, like we said, tuners are nothing new. I've seen them and used them on rimfire, and they're incredibly popular in disciplines like bench rest shooting. But PRS shooters, or hunters for that matter, are going to want a brake as well. Because in PRS, being able to retain the sight picture for your target is one of the absolutely most critical things. Hence the popularity of 6-Dasher and 223 AAI and some of these light recoiling calibers. A brake can help you keep you on target. But what if you could also have a tuner as well?
It's a good combination for me.
Yeah. So what we set out to do was to take this EC Tuner Brake. This is a 6.5mm model. It's self-timing. It takes a 7/8 inch wrench. You basically get this nut up against the shoulder with a little bit of extra turn for your wrench. It torques it in place. It's real nice that it's self-timing. And then you've got the mass on the end. There's a calibrated scale. It goes 0 to 10. For one complete revolution, and you can have, what did you calculate?
I counted 12.5 rotations before it was finally off the end of the brake.
Right.
So it's got quite a range of adjustment and tunability.
Yeah, and we never went beyond 12, so that would be one full rotation plus an extra 2 major tick marks. There's also minor tick marks between each of those numbers.
Yeah.
So you have 20 values that you can precisely align on here per revolution, and then you have 12 rotations, and you're going to want to retain a few threads. So think of it as 8 rotations or something like that. And I had seen video of Eric Cortina tuning like an AR-10 with factory ammo and going through the different settings, and you could see the different groups. And I thought, well, okay, I've always got to try things hands-on. So we started with this really nice custom rifle that I have. It's got a Foundation Genesis stock. It's got a Terminus Zeus action. I just got a Proof pre-fit barrel in 6.5 Creedmoor that I won at a match. And we decided to start at 0 and just start to shoot 3-shot groups. And that was you shooting that day, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And what did you observe?
Well, I observed it's a good brake. The brake's nice on it also. And what we found is that as we started turning the weight out, our groups did change. And as a matter of fact, there was a point in time where the harmonics came together and the groups definitely shrank in size. We continued testing, same load and everything, and kept turning it, and then over time the groups would open back up as you moved it out. So we definitely found a sweet spot, as they would say,
Yep.
in the tuner.
And we'll put up the graph so that you can see the visualization of the data. I mean, all of the groups were good until we got to the very end here, actually. This is really interesting. We started a little over half MOA, then we went to about 3/4 MOA, and then, 0.636, and then to 0.68, that was the high point. Then back down to 0.43, down to 0.37, which for factory ammo, this is Federal Premium Factory Ammo, is really good. And then we went to 12, and it went all the way up to an inch.
Back out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So really, really interesting. That was the first test. Okay. So the second test was I had just put my Bergara 65 PRC in the XLR Element 4.0 magnesium. I had just added weights to it, and I was seeing some interesting behavior with Hornady factory ammunition. A lot of what looked like windage harmonics.
Horizontal movement.
Yeah, horizontal movement. So I thought, well, I'm going to throw the EC tuner brake on, and let's go through this sequence.
To clarify, you were not seeing that horizontal movement in the other.
It didn't seem like that was happening in the factory stock.
So this is where we get different harmonics with different components.
Yep, definitely.
And so let's see if we can get rid of that.
Right, and the Bergara stock is completely optimized. You could probably think of it as closer to being bedded because the profile of the stock perfectly matches their version of a 700 clone, right? So I was at a little over an inch, went up to an inch and a half, down to 0.605. That's a huge, huge difference. And as you're shooting, you can kind of get a sense of things, right? What the groups are looking like is going to tell you kind of what the rifle is doing. And then at setting number 6, back up to 1.194, 8.71, and 10.609. So in general, it seemed like being essentially a short Magnum, this cartridge has, you could think of it as stronger harmonics, is kind of what I've noticed.
Yeah. Bigger harmonics?
Yeah, like, instead of just tapping and having the table vibrate, you're kind of like hitting it with a hammer, and you're seeing things actually move. This is consistent with the 300 PRC rifles that I've built and shot. So at the end of the day, I think when you go up to a Magnum caliber, some of this stuff matters even more. Is my theory.
Yeah, it's going to potentially have greater effect.
Yep. Okay, now as a continuation of the 110 grain A-tip story. We shot a couple different cartridges there. We had 6 Dasher, and then we had 6 Creed. And with the Howa rifle, kind of like the Bergara in the XLR, we saw a little bit more sensitivity to harmonics. Specifically, we had the Magneto Speed V3 bayonet on there, and it was not shooting well with that.
Had a little bit of a wrestling match there with that one. Yeah. Just weren't super happy initially, but...
But
we did.
Yeah, we found that 40.6 grain H4350 load, which shot well. And then I did more testing after we published that last video and saw pretty consistent groups. But then I thought to myself, well, what would happen if we threw on the tuner brake and then see if we can work that down a little bit?
I think doing that with the 6 Creed was the clear indicator to me of the effect that this can have on a rifle.
Okay, and you shot that again.
Yep.
So we started with you, and we're going to end with you. Why don't you walk through the data and talk about how that went?
So in shooting the 6 Creed, we shot that 110 A-tips with the 40.6 H4350. I don't remember the velocity that we were getting on that. It was in the high 29, yeah.
29.70.
So shot very well. It's a pretty consistent group, but I wanted to see it close up a little bit. Put the tuner on. We started at 0, got it sighted in, and started our test. I was doing 3-shot groups at 100 yards, and we found the first movement. The group actually opened a little bit, but as we got down, we went to 0.8, and lo and behold, the group size shrunk dramatically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was very happy with that, and we decided that was a good place to end the test on that because I was quite happy with it.
And we ran out of ammo.
We ran out of ammo.
Yeah.
I did want to go a little bit further to see if I could get that swing to come back up again, but I'm still quite happy with the end result that we did get.
And where that ended up was sub-quarter MOA for that 3-shot group.
Yes.
Great shooting, great results, and this is promising. Okay, so what we've shown with each of these test scenarios that you can definitely affect group size with the same ammunition with just the addition of the tuner brake and changing those settings.
Yeah, somebody shooting in a PRS match is going to love having a tool like this in their belt. You're going to get consistency and you're going to get improved accuracy. But the thing is, you're going to get that consistency where your dope is going to be just level, straight across the board. You're going to be able to repeat that every shot.
You get that SD of 3.0, you're not happy with the group, play around with the settings, and you know, it's not unlikely that you'll find that best of both worlds. I think it's a really nice tool, because if you're just varying your powder charge and your bullet seating depth and those other factors, you can't necessarily align those two critical factors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the effectiveness of the brake, the tunability of it, how it can improve your grouping size.
It's a 4-port, so it's kind of a beast.
Yeah. Yeah, it works though. It's nice.
The other thing we showed was we used it with 6.5, which it's intended for, the diameter of the output there. And we also tested it with a 6. I'm curious, so yeah, let's transition to what are we going to do next? What do we need to know as a follow-on? I think it'd be interesting to try it with the 22, the Valkyrie maybe.
I would like, that'd be great. I want to try getting a good grouping with it, take it off, put it back on. Like if I want to swap it from rifle to rifle, if I can buy one of these to run on my 6 and my 6.5, and I know my settings, I take good detailed notes, and I go put it back on, set it where it's supposed to be, is it going to be set the same?
Right.
Is it repeatable?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the repeatability of the results. So
yes,
we had this set at 8, and that went from almost a high point of like 3/4 MOA down to less than 1/4 MOA. And we didn't have ammo, or we would have followed that up with a 5-shot group, or even another 3-shot group, and then a 5-shot group. You know, and then you come back the next day, shoot another 5-shot group. You know, that's ultimately what you want as a rifleman, right? Is the consistent result of your own shooting and the rifle and the ammo. And so that's what I'm going to want to see next, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm happy with the way it's going though.
Yeah, I had high hopes for this, and so far it is confirmed, those high hopes and this sort of hypothesis of can you find the best of both worlds. But it does feel like we're just getting started. So we're going to continue working with this EC tuner brake. We might even try it in different calibers. If you click through to the article, I'll have a listing of what Eric Cortina currently has available for different bullet diameters. And we'd like to know, what do you think? Do you run a tuner? Do you have this specific EC tuner brake? Drop a comment. We would love to hear your experiences. Do you have a rifle, that would benefit from this? Any rifle that's more susceptible to harmonic fluctuations, I think, is a good candidate for this, or if you're just very, very particular about the results.
I'm happy.
All right, thanks
Gavin.
Travis, for coming again. We got a lot more that we're going to be working on. That concludes this video, and that means it's time to wrap it up. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe with notifications, because you're not going to want to miss the content I've got coming up. Also, links down in the video description. I'm on Patreon, and I've got Ultimate Reloader shirts at the Ultimate Reloader store. Any support that you show is most appreciated. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, happy shooting and happy reloading.